All right, what's up, Dragon Brood? Today, we're going to be addressing some hot takes in Magic because as gamers, we all have them about every game we play, and MTG Arena and Magic as a whole are no different. So I may regret this, but we're going to jump right in and we're going to address 15 of y'all's hottest takes about the game of Magic. Also, all of these takes came from social media, so I'm not going to include anybody's user handles or anything to, let's consider it protecting the innocent if nothing else. So first one is, WotC's doing a great job and the future is bright. I know a bunch of you are going to hate that and disagree with it, but I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle in this. I think they've made some decisions I don't necessarily like on some things, but those tend to be small. I think on the bigger picture of everything, they're actually not doing too bad. And honestly, they've made more money, we have more players, and these crossover products have brought a lot of people in. And I have to say, for the first time in a while, people seem to actually be figuring out this whole competitive play scene, and more people are talking about it and enjoying it on socials, which seems like that's a good thing. So I'm gonna give this a lukewarm one that I kinda agree with, but yeah, we're getting there. So yeah, we'll say things are brighter than they have been. Okay, this one being longer, I'm actually just going to read it off the tweet. But a lot of people watch content not to engage with it or enjoy it, but to try to outsmart it. They consistently try to prove they're the smartest one in the room. Ironically, this makes them myopic, unable to see other perspectives, which prevents them from actually improving. Oh yeah, I agree with this one totally. I think it's one of the things that's a little bit disappointing being a content creator. I think there's too many people who want to like, you made a mistake and you did it wrong, or this deck's terrible or whatever, and not really seeing the idea or the purpose of why somebody may be creating that content. And this isn't something that's necessarily just exclusive to Magic. I see it in other games as well all the time among gaming creators. And I think a lot of times if people would just stop and enjoy what's being produced or try to see the reason somebody might want to produce it, there's a chance they could even learn something from that. And more often than not, a lot of the people that are nitpicking often would make those mistakes or worse had they been playing in some other event or recording the content themselves. And I really think more people would learn more watching content where the decks don't actually work. I think it's easy to go, oh, I want to play this thing because they did really well with it. And then you go to deck build and you're making a bunch of mistakes that somebody else could have already done and prevented you from doing in the deck building process. But you were more concerned about just seeing something that wins instead of learning something from the content you were watching. So yeah, I kind of mostly agree with this one. Next one, Golos shouldn't be banned in Commander with the rule that it can't be your commander. I think what they're trying to say is that it should be allowed as a card in your 99, but not as your commander. Which is good this one came up because I was thinking I was going to agree with all of them. This is going to be a boring video. Actually, I disagree with this one quite a bit. I think Golos is a type of card that's just not fun, period. I mean, I know some people like that type of Magic, but I saw too many games where it came up, regardless of how it gets onto the battlefield. People just don't enjoy it. So no, I'm fine with it just being banned. And honestly, personal hot take I'm just going to throw in here. If it was up to me, there'd probably be way more cards being banned. So I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum anyway. All right, this is another long one. This person says they have 3 quick judges hot takes. Slow play warnings are needed and need to be issued more often. Judges are there to help you play Magic. They don't want to be the reason you lose a game. They just want to make sure the game's played correctly. And the third one, judges sometimes screw up too. Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of this. I think we let too many slow play things go on a bit long. I think we should be issuing more slow play warnings in paper Magic. And yeah, judges are exactly there for that reason. Like, they don't want to be interjected into the game. Like, they just want to make sure whatever the outcome is done by the rules of the game correctly. And yeah, judges make mistakes. I think that's the other thing too. Like, nobody's going to be perfect. Sometimes judges are going to rule wrong, or maybe they're going to misinterpret something that they hear. Like, that's just part of being human. So yeah, I don't even know if this is a hot take. I included it because I just was going down a list and snapping them real quick, but truthfully, this might even just be a lukewarm take, but yeah, I agree with it. This one's fun. Filter lands are the best all-around lands for a commander. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think even the ones that came out in like Battle Bond that just come into play untapped and give you 2 colors for having more than one opponent or whatever. Like, yeah, those are probably better. Like, I mean, filter lands aren't bad. I think people probably should play them more often, but just outright the best for a commander? No, can't agree with that one. That one's easy. All right, here's another good one. Mana bases have become such that they're trivially easy to build 4 and 5 color decks, and this makes deck building, and therefore certain formats, looking at you standard, bad. Yeah, I think this is mostly something I agree with. I think when we get into these situations where we have tons of multicolor lands, it becomes very easy to play a whole variety of like 3 and 4 color things, or if a card's really good, it's easy to splash into stuff. I mean, look at their situation right now. We have not just a bunch of good multi-lands, but we also have ways to search out a bunch of basics very easily. So you have stuff like Atraxa being played a lot in decks that aren't even really playing all the colors. They're like 2 and 3 color decks that happen to be splashing Atraxa, right? That's kind of like a result of that problem. So yeah, I agree with this. I do think we need multi-lands, but maybe only a couple of sets at a time. So that way we don't have like right now where, I don't know, I think there's like 3 or 4 sets of multi-lands in standard and 2 sets of them can come into play untapped. And then there's also actually 3 because you have the pain lands. So like, yeah, there's a lot. And it just leads to some weird situations. And historically, when we've had a bunch of others where we could literally play any color in any deck because every land is a 5 color land practically, yeah, that wasn't necessarily great. Alright, the huge influx of commanders has been great for deck diversity. You can play 10 different pods and see 30 new decks, and I discover a new commander from a set last year, basically every other game. You know, I kind of like this take, to be honest. I feel like when I've gone out to Command Fest or Magic Cons and played with people, I haven't seen all that many commanders repeated over the course of a weekend. There might be one every once in a while, but I actually kind of like that there's a lot of different combinations of commanders and decks you can play in every color. So yeah, I'm with this. While some people say, there's too many commanders, the truth is most of us aren't ever going to own more than like 5 to 10 commander decks at once, so it's not that big of a deal. And I like being surprised and seeing new stuff when I go to different tables, or having to reread a card because I forgot it's a Magic card. Like, that's fun. It's a casual thing. It's cool seeing all these different decks. So yeah, I agree with this one too. People run way too little flexible removal in most EDH decks. The format has powerful enchantments and artifacts. Only running creature removal will lose you games. Wow, this one's probably pretty accurate, to be honest. I think we see a lot of games or a lot of decks where people just decide they're not going to find a way to remove artifacts or enchantments. And my issue there is that if you're playing green, that's a thing you do. You don't necessarily kill creatures well. So you kind of are relying on the red or black decks necessarily, maybe even the white decks, to kill off more of the creatures. And maybe the red deck also help with artifacts, while the white deck's also helping with enchantments, right? So it kind of keeps the game balanced that everybody's deck's doing what they're trying to do. Now, I'm not saying you're required to do that. We all can build our decks however we want, but I do try to include at least 2 or 3 cards that can deal with artifacts, or 2 or 3 that can deal with enchantments. And even in my green decks, try to have like 2 or 3 cards that can deal with creatures if necessary, so I could draw into them. But yeah, it's something we should all be doing probably a little bit more. I wouldn't go heavy on it because you still want your deck to do what it's supposed to do, but yeah, I get it. Man, people came with some wordy hot takes today. All right, Magic Arena specifically would benefit from having a version of each format queue, Standard, Explorer, Alchemy, where each week there's a new ban list of 10 to 15 cards. Maybe 5 to 8 are on the list several weeks in a row. It would give those of us who play each day something new. Nope. Like, really? I get it. I get what you're aiming for, but this stuff never works. I mean, think about stuff already like midweek Magic that have different deck requirements or whatever that a lot of people don't play right now, and those are weekly. Like, admit, I'm one of those people. I won't touch them, and I play Arena nearly every day, and I wouldn't want to do that. Like, it's just too much to keep track of. We're talking about your deck's legal one time, then it's not, and then you have to switch cards, and the deck doesn't really work, so now I have to build a whole new deck to play for like 1 week. Like, I get what the intention here is, but it'd be better off just kind of like we did a couple of years ago where we had a queue that was like whatever the new standard was gonna be, and it just didn't include some stuff. So you got to play with kind of a smaller standard for a little while. Something like that is good. Or if we build something that's going to be consistent for at least a month, then maybe I would consider this a thing I would be into. But yeah, something you got to do weekly and a bunch of stuff to keep track of and things you got to check all the time. The more barriers to entry you have, the fewer people you're going to get that participate regularly. Oh, I've seen this one before. Commander is the worst thing to happen to the game. No, I disagree. I think most of the time when you hear this from people, it's usually from folks that either preferred the competitive scene that kind of was all you could do a lot of times if you went out to do Magic somewhere, or like to play some formats that just happen to not be Commander, and Commander is the most dominant thing in their playing area, their store, whatever. And I get that. I get it how it could feel that way. But the truth is, A lot of people enjoy it. It's moving a lot of singles to help a lot of retailers. Obviously, Wizards is making a lot of money on it. So we can't really say that's like the worst thing to happen to the game. If it was somehow like pushing people away, or stores were having trouble keeping up with it, or couldn't put butts in seats or whatever, then I would probably agree with it. But I don't think that's where we are, not by a long shot. Now, I do think that we're starting to at least put some time back into some of those other competitive formats, and RCQs are starting to matter, and I've gotten to do commentary on some arena championships and other tournaments again, and that's really cool. So seeing that develop again is still nice, and we're still going to be a little ways away from that. I mean, if anything, I would say Commander probably kept Magic going through what we'll call the COVID era, because people were at least able to get together with their small groups or their COVID bubbles, if you will, and were able to play Magic when they couldn't go to stores and couldn't go to big conventions or Grand Prix or any of that stuff. So it's actually not bad. So I can't say it's the worst thing to happen to Magic. I'm pretty sure if I thought long enough, I could make a list of at least 10 other things that are probably worse than Commander. Commander should be played with a minimum of 6 players. No, absolutely not. Like I don't even know where this one, see, and I was telling people I almost wouldn't address some of them if they didn't feel like real hot takes and you're just making stuff up to have something out there. And this sort of feels like that. Like, the first thing is, you just can't get 6 people together all the time, right? That's just a thing. The other is, like, anybody who grew up, you played spades all the time, or you had them, whatever that little card table was with just like the 4 crappy legs on it, but you could just tuck it away. You could play Commander on that. You can't do that if it's 6 players. Plus, a lot of people don't have seating for 6 players in general. Just don't have kitchen tables or whatever that could hold 6 people. A lot of people live in smaller apartments. Like, yeah, 4 people is fine for Commander. You don't need 6. Ooh, here's one. Set adjacent jumpstart is a really good idea, poorly executed, rather than simply a bad idea. I actually disagree with this. I think jumpstart is fine if it's like a once a year product, maybe a twice a year product. I don't think it's something that needs to come out with every set, for a couple of reasons. But I think it's just more for people to chase down, and I think the people it's trying to connect with, or the type of player it's trying to connect with, doesn't necessarily need to have that with every set, because a lot of the cards in there that people would want anyway aren't even really in the set, or sometimes even tied to the set. So it doesn't really necessarily have to be out alongside the set. And I think from an actual financial perspective, it's a little more difficult for retailers to keep up with it. Some retailers have forgone that product altogether to make sure they can stay cash rich to buy other products, not just even including Magic. So I would say it's probably a bad idea to have it every set. If it's something we could pull and somebody asked me what my vote was, this would probably be one of the products for sure. Primeval Titan should never have been banned. Yeah, I disagree with that. I always feel when people say this, they're either people who just don't like cards being banned, or they didn't play in the time where Primeval Titan was, well, in its prime. And yeah, the card's just ridiculous. The number of, like, just playing it and being able to get lands that let you combo out or let you do tons of other ridiculous things, like, it's just not a card you want. And the main issue with the card really is that it often became a card that the game became about, right? You were either trying to defend against it or kill it so your opponent wasn't getting extra stuff, or somebody was trying to steal it, or it went to the graveyard and people were trying to reanimate it. And it was just too much. And it's another card that if it stays on the ban list, I'm fine. Like, sure, I like some of the cool stuff it can do, but rarely was it being used just to do cool stuff. It was usually trying to do busted stuff that often led to the end of the game. The super majority of people constructing competitive decks are not primarily aiming to join tournaments, but to use it for casual play. Sadly, I agree with this one. This is something that's not even a new thing. This is something that's always existed in Magic. You would find people who are always trying to like level up their decks or find the best cards or whatever to just play with friends. And that's like a weird spot, because if all your friends are competitive, then it makes sense. But to just like want to squash your friends just feels weird, because then you're literally bringing like the equivalent of a gun to a knife fight. That just, why? Like, what are we gaining out of doing that? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a weird thing. So yeah, this is sadly a thing that does go on a lot. Like, even on Arena and stuff, like you have people who are never going to play competitively. Hell, there's some people don't even play the play queues or the actual ladder. They play only the play queues, and they're taking in top tier competitive decks. Like, it's a weird mentality, and I've seen it in other games too. I don't know why we do that as humans, but yeah, it's a thing that happens. So yeah, you don't need super competitive decks to play casually. Play for fun and enjoy it. Having multiple arts, versions, levels of foilness, etc. for the same card in a deck makes a deck look sloppy and that the owner does not care about it. Yeah, so, like, sure. it's the owner's deck. Like, what does it matter what I think about it? Like, this isn't really a hot take. This is just caring about something you don't need to care about. Like, I don't even get it. Like, literally, people love foils. I could care less about foils. But if you put them in your deck, that's your deck, not mine. Like, if somebody wants every secret layer weird art, great, go for it. Like, yeah, this was, I mean, I guess it's a hot take, but like, yeah, so what? Like, people get to do what they want. It's their cards and their deck. Like, okay. I have one more bonus hot take I'm going to throw in here. And I think people should try to have fun more and complain less, and try to find more ways to engage with the fun parts of the game they do enjoy. Because here's my thing. Like, if you're just complaining all the time, then why are you still playing? Like, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but like, if anything in life has me complaining a lot, I would just not do it. I just move on to other things because that's the smart thing to do. But if you can still find other ways to enjoy the game, then engage in it that way. And I think there's a lot of fun ways, especially since we get to start going out and gathering with people again, and we can go experience Magic a bunch of different ways. Matter of fact, some of those ways happen to be at Magic Cons and Command Fest, and I made a video about it. Like, you should check it out.